The new channel. The new channel. Hashtag TNC Now.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everyone! Welcome to the new channel. Our passion transforms a community that sees and shares all things new. My name is Jennifer Nuya, streaming from Mandaluyong, Philippines. And you're watching Decide as One on TNC. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of Decide as One, the new channel special coverage on Halalan 2025. And I'm Jennifer Nuya, live streaming from Mandaluyong City. And we're glad, we're happy that we have two guests today who will share with us their platforms, their plans and policies if given the chance to be elected in the Senate. And can we have retired Colonel Noel Detoyato and Lieutenant Colonel Janet Chavez Arceo. Can you please share a brief background about yourself and the work that you do?
I'm retired Colonel Noel J. Detoyato of the Philippine Army. I retired 6 years ago from the regular force, and I was designated as the Brigade Commander of 1503rd Ready Reserve Infantry Brigade, based here in the National Capital Region, but I relieved because I'm the second nominee of the Laang Kawal Pilipinas Partylist. I have worked with the regular force for 32 years.
That's admirable.
Starting from cadetship at the Philippine Military Academy and being deployed to Central Mindanao as a second lieutenant, where I experienced being a platoon leader up to the company commander, battalion staff. So I was I am pretty grounded with the combat operations of the Philippine Army, and I was exposed to the experiences. So that those experiences gave me the idea of improving it some more. Because if you are in the armed forces, if you are working with the soldiers, when you think you knew all the answers, all the questions would be changed because of the technology. So we really have to upgrade, and we really have to rely on the technology. But bottom line, when you're trying to defend a country and your sovereignty, the people is the most important asset.
Totally agree.
The Filipinos is our most important asset. Beyond the modern armaments, the people behind it are still the most important asset, and we have around 160,000 of them. in the regular force, and the country can defend itself if it has a very strong and robust reserve force. And that is what we are representing.
Thank you so much for that, retired Colonel De Toyato. How about you, Lieutenant Colonel Chavez Arceo?
Thank you, Jen. Hello to you, and thank you very much to you and to TNC for having us over. And to all our viewers all over the world, magandang buhay po sa inyong lahat at salamat po sa pagsuporta sa ating bansa kahit saan man na kayo naroon. I am, as mentioned, I am Lieutenant Colonel Janet Chavez Arceo. I am with the Reserve Force of the Philippine Army under the Armed Forces of the Philippines. I am the first female battalion commander.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That's amazing!
Thank you, Jen. Of the Ready Reserve unit in Laguna Province, that is south of Manila. I have been very lucky because I have had a lot of mentors and very supportive male senior officers and counterparts in the armed forces of the Philippines, particularly in my class when I took up the Master in National Security Administration at the National Defense College, and then later on when I finished my Command and General Staff course at the Command and General Staff College of the AFP. The Command and General Staff course is the highest military schooling for all military organizations globally, all over. And I have been blessed to have been given the opportunity to take that course. And in the process, I learned so much from my regular counterparts and similarly from my male counterparts. And now I have been temporarily relieved of my commandership because we have decided to go on a mission and to be representatives of a party list. We call it Laang Kawal Partylist, and we are advocating for a really robust reserve force for the Philippines that can actually really competently support our regular force, especially given the highly evolving security environment, not just domestically but globally. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Lieutenant Colonel Chavez Arceo. Dear viewers, we have very impressive guests today. So I encourage you to turn off all distractions and prepare to take mental notes. And then if you have any questions, any comments, you see the comment box. Feel free to drop in your comments, drop in your questions. And we will also be dropping links that you can click on or copy for later use. So my first question perhaps for retired Colonel De Toyato is, most Filipinos probably do not appreciate or fully understand the vital role that our reserve force is in when it comes to national sovereignty, to local community development. How do you, as members of Laang Kawal, plan to raise awareness so that they can be encouraged to become part of the reserve force?
You know, we have a law, Republic Act 7077, that was enacted around 30 years ago. But that law has not been fully implemented because it lacks the implementing rules and regulations. And it states in that law that it is a National Reservist Act, citizen soldiers of the armed forces of the Philippines, which all Filipinos are supposed to be members. For those who are in college, 18 to 25 years old, they have to undergo a basic citizens military training. And it states there that ROTC is mandatory. And for those who have not gone to college, 18 to 35 years old, you must also undergo basic citizens military training. That is mandatory to all Filipinos. And but right now it is not being implemented because it lacks the IRR and the funding. And the development of a strong reserve force, the local government units has a very very vital role in it, including the governors and mayors, because governors will have their battalions, training areas in their area, in the province, and the municipal level and the city level will organize platoons in order for them to get trained in the training area of the provinces. That is how that is the concept of our reserve force development, which up to now has not taken off fully because of a lack of appreciation, understanding, and lack of implementing rules and regulations. The total force concept of the defense of the country includes the reservists. We only have around 160,000 regular troops, and our reserve forces is numbering around 1.9 million.
Oh, wow.
And the concept of a reserve force development, they should be ready to be integrated with the regular force when the calling comes, when they are called to active duty in defense or in times of disaster. So that is a very, very tall order for us that we have to as our mission in this party list, because it is the meat and the gist of our being of running, because we have the national security as our platform.
Thank you for that, Colonel De Toyato. Now, you mentioned about disaster preparedness. Do you also offer disaster preparedness workshops in the local communities?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jen. You know, the one of the key missions and reason for being, so to speak, of the reserve force or the reservists is really primarily so far, because we are in peacetime, so to speak, is really to assist in disaster response. And so over the years, there have been a lot of training when it comes to disaster response or humanitarian assistance and disaster response activities. Yes, we undergo a lot of trainings for that one. We actually also do trainings for our civilian members of the community so that they can be made aware of what to do in certain disaster situations. And the Philippines have had several.
Yes.
In fact, I have led my troops during the Taal volcano eruption, during the COVID pandemic years, you know, even in the series of Category 5 typhoons. And some of the other reserve units, and so the reservists in different areas have had their share of disaster response activities also. Some of them in when there were oil spills, they helped in the clearing of that one. Some also in disaster response during typhoon, and in Bicol when there was the eruption of Mount Mayon, and so on and so forth. And this in many instances, even during the times that we did the things that I've mentioned, the resources are very, very minimal. And so our reservists would really just do their share. They report for duty because they feel very strongly committed to what their sworn duty as reservists. So they will report, they will use their own money for their fuel. Oftentimes when resources of the LGB, for example, that we are supporting is also very challenged, we would, cough up our own finances to put together our meals and so on. So we have been lucky. There have been a lot of people who have seen what we do and recognizes the value of the reservists, especially in our area, and they have been sending some support. But that is not consistent, and that is not also standardized in all areas for all the different reservist units. And so what we hope to be able to do with the Laang Kawal Partylist is to be able to standardize these things, standardize the benefits for our reservists. Many will go and do their disaster response duties without any insurances, health and accidental insurances. There are certain units with very snappy, we call them snappy commanders, who would get insurances for certain members of the unit. But again, this is not a standard thing for all the units, for the Army Reserve, for the Navy Reserve, and for the Air Force Reserve units. So we want to be able to standardize this. These are basic, we believe these are basic benefits that should be in place because of the risks that the reservists take and face every time they are deployed, every time they're called for duty so that they can support and help our members of the communities. So there are several that we have on the list that we want to be standardized, some benefits that we want to standardize. In fact, we call it our 3S, the Laang Kawal 3S. That's making sure that we support policies and programs that will ensure the safety, security, and sustained support for our reservists and their families. And Colonel Vitoyato mentioned that there is practically at least one reservist in every Filipino family. At least one, especially in communities where they have sent their children to college. A college student, even if he or she does not graduate the 4-year course or the course that he or she took, if she attended the first year level and finished his or her ROTC program or the other components, he or she is already a reservist, bona fide reservist. So if you think about that, there is really practically at least one reservist in every Filipino family across our country, and we need to be able to empower them. We need to ensure that they're highly motivated to serve, and in order to actually help them get more motivated, and also to reciprocate, the kind of service that they give the country and the communities, we want to be able to keep them safe, make them feel secure, their families and them feel secured, and at least help them in some of the expenses that they have to bear in the course of their serving our communities and our country.
I totally agree with having insurance, especially during disaster preparedness, humanitarian rescue operations, right? That's very important. And then number 2, so that's under security, I believe, and also under safety. Now, I'm curious, each time, I might be mistaken, but each time that there is a newly elected president, the military or the policemen, they will receive a raise. So is that the same or true for the reserve force?
No, it's not. Because it is only the regular force that are receiving all the benefits and the privileges of from the government. The reservists are what we call volunteers because they don't receive anything. In between the reservist and the regular force is the Citizens Armed Forces Geographical Unit, or the CAFGU. They are receiving the subsistence allowance only every month, and they serve in the detachments for so many number of days every month that is required. So we have a force around 70,000 of them, the CAFGU, between the regular force and the reservists. So that is the setup that we have right now. We want to improve because this portion that is numbering around 1.5 million is the one that is marginalized. Because they continue to serve, especially during calamities, and they report during weekends, during formations and trainings, but they don't receive anything. So we have to at least legislate the amended 7077 to include the compensation that they can get every time they go on duty.
Jen, um, it is very important that this particular sector of our armed forces is fully supported. You know why? Because the calf goose that Colonel De Toyato mentioned and the reservists, they're the ones who are from the communities. They're the ones who are aware and knowledgeable in terms of the different aspects of their respective communities. Our regular forces, they are designated to different areas, so they'll just be in an area for at least 2 years and they'll be pulled out and transferred to another areas. But the members of our calf goose, the members of our reservists, they continue to be in the area. So you know what? There are instances that even a 2-star general would call a reservist
Really?
an NCO or an enlisted personnel because that reservist actually know more, if not most of the things that this 2-star commander will need to know upon being designated in an area.
Yes.
So that's really the value of our reservists. They're our they're being referred to nga now in certain planning procedures of the armed forces. They will eventually be the left behind. They're actually the left behind force. Because let's say, for example, in situations when there's conflict, right, and there's a lot of combat operations, for example, among other things, the regular forces will do their thing, and later on, once the area has been cleared of this threat elements, the regular force will be moving on to other areas.
Yes.
And it's our reservists and our calf goose who will be left behind in the areas. So that's how critical and how valuable they are in terms of our overall security. So and for so long, this particular sector, the armed forces, have been very timid because it has always been programmed to believe in the chain of command, and rightfully so. That's how we're all trained and programmed. We believe in staying in our areas, in our spaces. But somebody will have to champion their welfare. And if there's nobody who's really championing it, there are several. There have been several commanders and senior military leaders who have been. However, that has become the problem because it now becomes incumbent upon the senior officer or the commander and his appreciation of the value of the reservists. We need to be able to standardize it. We need to sustain the things that is important to support the reserve force so that they can function more effectively, more competently, and more in accordance to the needs of the mission of our armed forces.
You've mentioned earlier about chain of command. Now I'm curious, does the reserve force have their own chain of command, or do they report to the military's commander? And how is that working for the reserve force?
The reserve force is organized like a regular force. So they already also have their own chain of command. But when they are deployed or will be used by the government, called to active duty, they will be integrated with the regular force, with their chain of command within them. And then when they are integrated, they will be under the chain of command of the regular force. So we are organized separately, but we are always trained and ready to be integrated if the need is the need arises. And the development of a reserve force, and when you maintain a very good reserve force that is more cost effective than maintaining a very big regular force that you don't need because there is no invasion. So you just have to continue training, continue procuring equipment for those trained reservists, so that when the time comes that you need the reservists to be called to active duty, you are prepared, they are prepared and the government is prepared to give them the right equipment in order to be integrated into regular force
Mhm.
to defend our country.
Okay. Will it be problematic if, for example, we consider having the reserve force a different commander that is only thinking about the welfare of the reserve force, ensuring that whatever the regular army is having or receiving, we're saying about standardizing the benefits, standardizing, right? Um, will it be problematic or will it be helpful?
It will be helpful because there is a definite, for example, if you have an undersecretary at the Department of National Defense that caters only
Mm.
to the development of the reserve force, then they will have their own line of budgeting, and they will have their own direct line with the organizational structure of the reserve force, and the training, the sustainment will be handled by the undersecretary. But the deployment of these reserve forces, when they are called to active duty,
Mm.
they will be integrated to the regular force.
Okay.
They are not going to operate separately, but
Mm.
always with the regular force.
I think I understand. Would you like to add something?
Yes, Jen. It's the setup of the military is very cut and dried.
Mm.
And even if there is such a thing as the regular force or the standing force and the reserve force, the reservists or the members of the reserve force fully understand and operate according to the protocols and processes of the military organization. So it has always been our advocacy to ensure, and it is being done now. It has always been our advocacy that the reserve force or the service are trained and do exercises with the regular force, the regular counterparts. Jen, kasi for so long, historically, it has been a concern for our regular force members. Our regular active officers and personnel have been well trained. They're really ready for any situation or any scenario. And we have seen in past scenarios when the reservists come in, and this was before, they become liability to the regular force than being helpful. But that has been addressed over these recent years. The problem there is the lack of trust and confidence of the regular force with the reservists. So, and that's the reason why for so long they have been a bit hesitant to have the reservists join them in any kind of operations. But in previous years, and this is what we want to be sustained, moving forward, is that their trainings will be integrated such that we call it, building of trust and confidence with each other. The reservists start learning more from the regular forces when they are integrated with them on a more regular basis, and in operations or training operations that are suitable and appropriate for the regular force to join in. So moving forward later on, when we are placed in a situation and a scenario when really the whole concept of the reserve force coming in and supporting the regular forces, then there won't be any more doubts or hesitation with the regular forces that the reservists might just be a liability. Yes, it has happened in the past. Yeah, but now more and more, because of this, there are more integrated training exercises being done with the regular and the reserve forces. Then that's being addressed. But then again, that's what we're saying. We want it sustained, we want it to be consistent, we want it to be uniform in all areas. These integrated training exercises oftentimes are done in certain areas only, but we want it to be more sustained and consistent, so that when truly, there are signs that are showing that there might be some flashpoints that can trigger certain conflict situation that can disrupt our normal and peaceful lives. We need to be ready.
Yes, I totally agree. Actually, I really appreciate the reserve force. I come from a long family of military family, and also we have reservists in the family. So I know how difficult it is juggling between your
Yes.
civilian career and also being on active duty when it's needed. This has been a very insightful conversation with you. Thank you so much, retired Colonel De Toyato and also Lieutenant Colonel Chavez Arceo. So before we close, can you please tell our viewers, our dear viewers, why they should write or choose 149, Laang Kawal, in their ballots?
I will speak first on mga kababayan, to all Filipinos and registered voters. We are appealing to you to support Laang Kawal Partylist. Our advocacy is to strengthen our national security. Our national security is about the security of every Filipino, their families, and our communities. And it is not only through military that national security can be achieved. And so our program in terms of our policy agenda and priorities, and as well as our programs lined up, is to ensure that we have a very robust, highly competent, easily deployable reserve force, together also with the other force multiplier civilian volunteer organizations that can ensure that our communities are secured and defended from any threat, so that our normal and peaceful life can proceed in a long term, and we can all prosper as Filipino citizens. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Thank you so much, Colonel De Toyato and also Lieutenant Colonel Chavez Arceo. And dear viewers, if you learned a lot, as I did, and you want to learn more about Halalan 2025, we encourage you to watch the future sessions or future discussions. And before we leave, I would like to make a short promotion. If you are an AI or tech enthusiast and you want to learn how you can streamline your operations, maximize your profit, and reduce costs, please go to Tribu Balundu Maki Hangout on April 11. That's at Liwanag Cafe in Bacoor, Cavite. And let's listening to Ray Villamar, a SaaS architect, so that he can share with you how he was able to streamline his operations. Thank you so much once again for spending your day with us, and we hope that you have learned a lot today. See you again, and at Majoran Day Gloria.
To our listeners, viewers, the Laang Kawal ng Pilipinas Partylist number 149 in your ballots. And if you are going to save it, one shade or one vote for Laang Kawal ng Pilipinas is one vote for our national security, because national security cannot be negotiated. It is non-negotiable, and every Filipino must participate when it comes to national security. So make the right choice on May 12, and do not squander the choice. Choose national security. 149 Laang Kawal Partylist.